Imagine this. You're a soldier, you're on the ground, maybe it's 1940, you're in France, and it's quiet. And then you hear this drone.
Like a swarm of bees at first.
Exactly. But then the pitch just starts to climb, and it becomes this high mechanical scream. And it's not going over you, it's coming for you.
And that sound, that wasn't an accident. It was a weapon in itself.
It was. And the machine making that sound is our subject for today's class, the Junkers Ju-87. You probably know it better as the Stuka. But we're not just looking at a plane here. We're looking at the symbol of Blitzkrieg.
It's a fascinating piece of history. You know, we usually focus on the sleek fighters, the Spitfires and the Mustangs, the race cars of the sky. The Stuka. Well, it's not that.
No, it's a piece of farm equipment. It's a tractor.
It's a workhorse. It's slow, it's ugly, but for the first couple of years of the war, it was probably the single most feared weapon the Germans had.
The term I always hear is flying artillery.
That's precisely it. They didn't just want to drop bombs from 30,000 feet. They wanted to hit a specific machine gun nest right now to clear a path to the tanks. And for that kind of precision back then, you had to point the whole plane at the target.
So let's talk about what this thing looked like. I mean, it is predatory. It has this very distinct, angry shape to it.
Predatory is a good word. You've got those inverted gull wings, that cranked wing shape.
Right. They dip down before they go up. It looks like a vulture hunching its shoulders.
And that was purely functional. It wasn't for looks. The Stuka had a huge propeller, and to keep it from chewing up the dirt, you need a really long landing gear.
Okay, that makes sense.
But long landing gear is fragile, so by cranking the wing down, they could attach the gear at that low point. It meant the legs could be shorter and much, much stronger.
And the legs themselves, they didn't retract. We have to talk about the spats.
The trousers, yeah. The gear was fixed, which seems really backward for the late 1930s, right?
It does. I mean, everyone else is trying to tuck their wheels away for more speed.
But see, a hydraulic retraction system is complicated. It's heavy. And the Stuka was meant to operate from muddy fields in Poland or rough dirt strips near the front line. Fixed gear is simple. It's tough. You could slam it down, refuel, rearm, and you're gone again. It was built rugged.
But the thing that really defined it, the thing we started with, was that sound, the Jericho Trumpet.
Yes. And this is just, pure psychological engineering. They were literally just little propellers bolted to the front of the landing gear. Wind-driven sirens.
So as the plane dives, they spin faster and faster.
And they create that terrifying wail. The whole point was to break the enemy's will before the bomb even hit.
That's so cynical. But it creates drag, doesn't it? You're deliberately slowing your own plane down.
Oh, absolutely. It costs them about 15 miles per hour. From an engineering standpoint, it's a flaw, but from a psychological one, it was a masterpiece, at least early on.
If you are enjoying this video, please watch it until the end. This greatly helps the channel and encourages us to continue our work.
The whole idea came from Ernst Udet, a World War I ace. He wanted the soldier on the ground so terrified that he wasn't firing his anti-aircraft gun. He was just curled up in a ball.
And it worked. For a while.
For a while. But veteran troops eventually figured it out. They realized, if I just stand my ground and shoot, it's a really slow target. Later in the war, the pilots actually hated them. They took them off and sometimes just put little whistles on the bombs instead.
I want to get inside that cockpit, because the dive itself sounds completely insane.
Yeah.
We're not talking a gentle slope. We're talking 85 degrees.
It's basically vertical. And the procedure, it took guts. So you're the pilot. You're at maybe 12,000 feet. You find your target. Let's say it's a bridge, but you can't see it over the engine.
Right, you're looking through that little window in the floor.
Exactly. The bombing window between your feet. You line it up, throttle back, and then you deploy the dive brakes.
With huge slats under the wings.
And that's the key. Without them, the plane would just accelerate until the wings ripped off. The brakes hold the sped steady at about 350 miles per hour.
Which you're calling steady.
Well, it's manageable, but you had to hold that angle. They had red lines painted on the inside of the canopy glass at 60, 75, 80 degrees to help you line up with the horizon.
While the ground is rushing at you and people are shooting at you.
Right. Then, maybe at 2,000 feet, you release the bomb. And now comes the hardest part, the pullout.
The G-forces must be incredible.
Brutal! You're pulling 4, 5, sometimes 6 Gs. All the blood rushes from your head down to your feet. You're almost guaranteed to experience GLOC.
G-force-induced loss of consciousness. You black out.
You gray out or you pass out completely, which, seems like a fatal design flaw. Step 1, point at ground. Step 2, fall asleep.
So how'd they solve that?
They built in an automatic recovery system, one of the first ever. When the pilot pushed the bomb release, it triggered a mechanism that automatically retracted the dive brakes and pulled the elevators to level the plane out.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
The plane saves the pilot while he's unconscious.
That's exactly it. The pilot wakes up a few seconds later and he's flying away from the target. Without that system, every Stuka pilot would have been on a one-way trip.
That's an amazing piece of tech for the 1930s. So they've got this incredible, terrifying machine, and they need to test it out.
The Spanish Civil War, that was the proving ground. The Condor Legion went to support Franco, and they took the early Stukas with them.
And they had that weird pig painted on the side.
Vigilant the cat, yeah. Named after a cartoon pig, they painted it on the wheel spats. But Spain taught them two things. One, it was incredibly accurate against things that didn't move. And two, if enemy fighters showed up, it was incredibly vulnerable.
A warning sign.
A huge one. But they basically assumed they'd always control the skies. They thought our fighters will handle their fighters, then the Stukas can do their work. And in Poland and France, that's exactly what happened.
The glory days.
Absolutely. They perfected close air support. This is key. They had Luftwaffe officers on the ground, in the tanks, with radios. They were calling in targets in real time. Bunker, 200 meters ahead on the ridge. Boom. The plane becomes an extension of the tank.
That coordination is the real heart of Blitzkrieg.
It is. It felt unstoppable. French soldiers wrote about being completely paralyzed by the sirens. It was a whole new kind of war.
And then they got to the English Channel.
And the Stuka hit a brick wall, a wall of Spitfires and Hurricanes.
The whole story just flips overnight. What went so wrong?
Over England, for the first time, Germany did not have air superiority. The Stuka is slow, maybe 200 miles an hour. It can't turn. If a Spitfire gets on its tail, it's over.
I've heard the RAF pilots call them Stuka parties.
It was a turkey shoot. The rear gunner has one little machine gun against 8 from a Spitfire. It wasn't a fight. Entire squadrons were just wiped out in a single afternoon.
And the psychological weapon backfired.
It did. The siren doesn't scare a fighter pilot. The losses got so bad that Hermann Göring had to pull them out of the battle completely. It was a total humiliation and proved the Stuka was a bully. It only worked when nobody could fight back.
So its big moment was over. But it didn't just disappear.
No, it just moved to a different theater. To the Mediterranean, to North Africa. And there, it actually found a new life as a ship killer.
Why was it so good against ships?
It's about geometry. A high-altitude bomber drops a bomb, and in the 30 seconds it takes to fall, a ship can move. But a Stuka is diving right at the ship. The pilot can adjust his aim all the way down.
Much more accurate.
Incredibly. They gave the Royal Navy a terrible time. They nearly sank the carrier HMS Illustrious, but it was a strategic sideshow. Sinking a cruiser in the Med wasn't going to win the war.
Which brings us to the main event, the Eastern Front. Operation Barbarossa.
Right. And this is where the Stuka saw its heaviest use and where it had to evolve. At first, in 1941, it was like Poland all over again. The Soviet Air Force was caught on the ground. The Stukas had a free run.
But Soviet tanks got better, the T-34.
Exactly. Suddenly, a small bomb landing next to a T-34 didn't do much. You needed a direct hit on a moving target. It was getting too hard, and Soviet anti-aircraft fire was getting better.
So the Stuka had to change its whole mission.
It did. It became the Ju-87G, the Gustav, or the tank buster. They stripped off the dive brakes, took off the sirens, and bolted 2 enormous 37mm cannons under the wings.
Wait, 37mm, that's an artillery piece.
It's huge, a slow-firing, hard-hitting cannon using special tungsten core ammunition designed to punch through armor. They called it the Kanonenvogel, the cannon bird.
And you're not dive bombing anymore. You have to fly low and slow.
You're skimming the ground. You have to get behind the tank, aim for the thin armor over the engine. It's incredibly dangerous work.
And you can't talk about the cannon bird without talking about Hans-Ulrich Rudel. The numbers attached to this guy, they just don't seem real.
I know. It's unbelievable. He flew 2,530 combat missions. Just think about that. He's credited with destroying 519 tanks. That's more than 5 entire Soviet armored corps. Destroyed by one pilot.
And he sank the battleship Murat.
He dropped one of the 2 bombs that hit it, yeah. Hit the ammunition magazine. But beyond that, 800 other vehicles, 150 artillery guns. The list goes on.
The resilience, too. Shot down 30 times.
Wounded 5 times. Late in the war, his leg was blown off below the knee.
And that must have ended his flying career.
You'd think. He got a prosthetic, got back in his Stuka, and kept flying missions until the final surrender. He even destroyed more tanks after losing his leg.
That's just incredible. But
Yeah.
we do need to add some serious context here. This isn't just a story about a skilled pilot.
No, and it's vital we're clear on this. Udet was an unrepentant, fanatical Nazi. After the war, he never apologized. He fled to Argentina and was active in far-right circles his whole life. He was maybe the greatest grain attack pilot ever, but he used that skill for a monstrous regime.
A complex and very dark legacy. So by 1944, Rubel is still flying, but the plane itself is. It's a dinosaur.
Completely obsolete.
Yeah.
But Germany had a problem. They'd failed to design a replacement.
There was that Ju-187.
Yeah, really weird design with a rotating tail. But it wasn't much of an improvement, so they canceled it. They were stuck with the old Stuka.
So they just kept flying them into swarms of modern fighters.
They did. By the end, they were mostly flying them at night, just to survive. They were hunted to extinction. It's telling that of the more than 5,700 Stukas that were built,
How many are left?
just two intact planes exist today, one in London and one in Chicago.
Wow. From over 5,700 to 2. It just shows they were seen as completely disposable tools of war.
They were used up and thrown away. For a plane that was the poster child for German air power, it just vanished.
So as we wrap this up, the legacy of the Stuka is a paradox, isn't it?
It really is. It's a perfect lesson in military technology. It was tactically brilliant. It did its one job diving on a target perfectly, but it was strategically a failure. It was built on the assumption of air superiority, an assumption Germany couldn't maintain.
It was a terror weapon that defined the early war, but it just couldn't survive in a fair fight.
That's the story of the Stuka. A terrifying sound, a fascinating piece of engineering, and a stark reminder that being scary isn't the same as being effective in the long run.
And that brings us to the end of our class on the Junkers Ju-87. If viewers enjoyed the video, they can subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell to be notified about new videos, click the like button, and share the video with their colleagues, as this helps us maintain the channel. Thank you.